I'm Ivy. Early Saturday morning, before the sun had even peeked over the Sierra Mountains, I set off from San Jose, California, with a three-tier cake carefully secured on the passenger seat. I drove through over 8 hours of mountain roads and snow, heading toward Aspen, Colorado, the venue for my younger sister Claire's engagement party. Claire once told me she adored peach champagne mousse cake more than anything. I remembered that. A week before the party, I ordered the cake from the most renowned bakery in the area, paid extra to have it made fresh that morning, and ensured it was meticulously packaged. I even picked out a silver box with a gold ribbon, not because anyone asked, but because I wanted everything to be perfect. Not for me, but for Claire. I believed if I tried hard enough, my love would be recognized. I left the city when it was still pitch black, headlights cutting through white mist curling along the roadside. Crossing Loveland Pass, the snow began falling harder. The wipers ran nonstop, and the steering wheel was ice cold in my hands. I stopped once at a gas station near Glenwood Springs. I changed into heels in a cramped restroom, where the only warmth came from a weak hand dryer. My coat was damp, my hair tangled from the wind, but I still smiled at my reflection. It'll be worth it, I told myself. She's worth it. When my car pulled into Snow Ridge Resort, the tires crunched over a thin layer of ice covering the parking lot. I took a deep breath. The scene looked like a winter postcard, golden string lights draped over wrought iron gates, cello music drifting faintly from the grand hall, and in the distance stood a large, snow-covered estate, straight out of a bridal fairy tale. I handed my keys to the valet, holding the cake tightly in the other hand. He hesitated, then asked, "Are you delivering the cake?" I smiled gently, trying to keep my tone pleasant. "No, I'm the bride's sister." The large wooden door opened, and a wave of warm air, scented with vanilla and peonies, wrapped around me. But strangely, the chill from outside still clung to my back. No one paused, no one looked at me for more than 3 seconds. A few women in pastel dresses glanced my way, their eyes flicking over and then quickly turning away. The feeling was so familiar, I wasn't even surprised. I held the box like a peace offering, stepping confidently across the polished wooden floor. Then I saw Claire. She wore a cream satin dress, her hair loosely pinned with perfect curls cascading. She was laughing brightly with a man I assumed was one of the groom's friends, until she turned and saw me. Her smile vanished, her face stiffened. "Baby?" she said, her tone caught between surprise and discomfort. I tried to stay cheerful, stepping closer. "Surprised? You're getting married. I couldn't miss it. I drove all the way from San Jose." Claire glanced at the cake box. She didn't even reach for it. "I didn't think you'd make it. The weather, it's dangerous." I gently set the cake on the buffet table next to a tray of almond cookies. "Well, I made it, and I thought you'd be happy." Claire pressed her lips together and said nothing. I heard a whisper behind me. "She wasn't on the list, was she?" My chest tightened. I kept smiling, but by then I knew. Something was deeply wrong. Something was off in this place that should have felt like home. I stepped deeper into the grand hall, my deep purple dress still speckled with snow. The room shimmered with candlelight and violin music drifted like honey through the air. But amidst all that glamour, I felt like I had accidentally walked into a stranger's party. No one came over, no one asked if I needed anything. A silver-haired woman in an emerald velvet dress, my former high school teacher, glided past without a glance. As I passed a group of older women chatting by the fireplace, they fell silent just as I approached, then quickly changed the topic to winter charity projects. I saw my mother standing near the main staircase, holding a glass of red wine, still elegant as always during special occasions. She saw me, but instead of opening her arms, she simply raised an eyebrow and leaned in, placing an air kiss near my cheek. "Ivy, you're soaking the floor," she murmured, her tone more like commenting on a spilled coffee stain than greeting her daughter. "I drove nearly 500 miles to get here," I replied, trying not to let my emotions show. "No one told me when it started." She gave a slight shrug. "This is Claire's party. Don't turn it into a stage for your feelings." I stood there, soaked, freezing, and brushed aside like a late-arriving caterer. I pressed my lips together. I just wanted to congratulate her. She didn't respond, just turned to strike up a conversation with a man in a tuxedo, leaving me alone, my hands still trembling. I tried to find somewhere to put my coat and purse. After wandering near the dining area, I spotted a small room tucked behind it with a wooden sign reading, "Bridal Party Only." I glanced around. No one was watching, then quietly stepped inside. A long table covered in white cloth held 12 gift boxes tied with ivory ribbons, each with handwritten gold ink name cards. I flipped through them. Eliza, Marin, Brooke. My name wasn't there. No Ivy, no variations, not even a misspelling. I stood still for a while, trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Then my phone buzzed, a notification from a group chat called Clare's Angels. I had never seen it before. Maybe someone added me by accident, or maybe not. I scrolled through the messages. The most recent was from one of Claire's close friends. Just pretend the guest list is full, don't let her ruin the vibe. My heart skipped a beat. I scrolled up. An earlier message from the number saved under Clare read, "She doesn't match the mood. This party needs elegance, not heaviness." My chest tightened. My hand around the phone went cold. Not from the weather. I turned off the screen quietly and stepped out like a shadow. Back in the main hall, I noticed a round table near the dessert display. One seat was empty. I walked toward it, holding onto a thin thread of hope. But just as I rested my hand on the back of the chair, a server stepped in with a rehearsed smile. "I'm sorry, miss. That seat's for the DJ's assistant." I pulled my hand away, nodded politely, and swallowed the lump of shame rising in my throat. "That's fine." I found a quiet corner near the refreshment station, poured myself a glass of water, and clutched it tightly to keep my hands from shaking. From where I stood, I could clearly see the slideshow screen. Claire in a red sweater blowing out 10 birthday candles. Claire in a white dress at prom. Claire hugging mom at her college graduation. I wasn't in a single photo. Someone brushed against my shoulder without apologizing. A tablecloth behind me had been tugged out of place, but no one noticed. The room seemed too full, yet there was still space for me to stand alone. Only one person stopped, my aunt. The only one who'd sent me a Thanksgiving card last year. "You should try to smile for your sister," she said, gently touching my arm. "It's her night. Let her have it." I didn't know how to respond. I just nodded, my lips forming a faint, lifeless smile. Even I didn't believe it. It was the smile of someone who had long grown used to being treated like background decor in someone else's picture. And as the lights dimmed for the opening dance, I stepped back. Then another step. The room was still filled with laughter and lights. I stood pressed against the wall near the refreshment table, still holding the icy plastic cup like it was the only thing anchoring me to reality. Every step in that room echoed sophistication. The soft tap of heels on polished stone, the gentle clink of crystal glasses, and laughter that felt rehearsed, not real. I started to feel like an intruder, not because I had done anything wrong, but because someone had already rewritten who I was in everyone else's eyes. My phone buzzed again. A notification from Instagram. Someone had tagged me in an old photo, Claire in her senior prom dress standing among her friends. I had taken that picture. I wasn't in it. But the caption hit harder than any cold air. People who always radiate positive energy. The first comment came from Claire's best friend, Lisa. "So glad everything's finally right this year. Right people, right place." I couldn't tell what made my hands go colder, the condensation on the cup or the realization that I was being erased intentionally. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a coordinated effort. I needed somewhere quiet. I slipped back into the bridal party only room I had sneaked into earlier. The door was ajar, no one was inside. I gently closed it behind me and sat on a velvet cushioned chair near the long table. On the table sat someone's phone, unlocked, open to a messaging app. I didn't mean to pry, but the screen lit up and there it was. A group chat named Core Crew No Drama, Please. My name was right there, no need to guess, no ambiguity. Claire. Ivy doesn't match the vibe. She always brings this funeral energy. Just say the guest list is full. Lisa. Don't let her steal the spotlight. Tonight's photos are white and pastel only. That deep purple dress ruins the mood. But she only came to get attention. Wanna bet she cries? I don't know how long I sat there staring at that screen. When I finally stood up, my legs wobbled slightly, but my spine stayed rigid. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I just took out my phone and snapped screenshots. 1, 2, 3. Not to fight back, but so I'd never again doubt what I knew deep down was real. I walked back into the hallway, headed for the main room, but a burst of laughter from around the corner made me freeze. That laugh, I knew it. Then Claire's voice followed, casual and sharp. If she had crashed on the way here, tonight might have gone smoother. The clinking of champagne glasses followed, then Lisa's voice chimed in. Or at least we could have, milked the sympathy. Big sister lost in the snowstorm, so cinematic. Laughter erupted. I didn't move forward. I didn't interrupt. I stood still, behind a carved oak wall, only a few steps from the celebration. But it felt like I was buried under 3 feet of snow, with no one trying to dig me out. I turned and walked the other way. Not out of fear, but because there was nothing left to prove. These people already had their script, and they were sticking to every word. I returned to the side hall, where the cake I had brought still sat untouched on a side table near the entrance. The silver box remained sealed, the gold ribbon I tied at 2 a.m., still perfectly intact. I touched the lid gently, my chest tight. I had believed in something sincere, and now I was staring at it, shelved like outdated decor. I pulled out my phone and took a photo, the cake under warm golden light, my shadow stretching behind it. Not to post, just to remember. In case one day someone asked, did they really do that? I'd have the answer, yes, and this is what they left behind. No one called my name. No one came looking. I stood there, at a party meant for someone I once called family, realizing they never intended to save a seat for me. I walked out of the banquet hall with my heart pounding in my chest, my hands ice cold, but not from the snow outside. I just needed a few minutes away from the lights and the fake laughter. The air in that room had become suffocating, like the space itself was choking out anyone who didn't fit the family aesthetic Claire had so carefully curated. I turned into a narrow hallway leading to the staff area, the kitchen and cold storage rooms, where the smell of vanilla frosting mixed with floor cleaner. I hadn't meant to go in far, but as I rounded the corner, I heard someone giggling. Then the faint click of high heels on tile. She looked like she got frozen on the road and dragged herself in, came a sharp, high-pitched voice with a thick New Jersey accent. I recognized it. Lisa. Another voice replied, lighter but just as bitter. She drove herself here, over 7 hours in the snow just to carry a cake. Kinda pathetic. I didn't dare breathe. I stepped back half a pace, pressing myself against the wall, my palm gripping my phone tightly. I heard the clinking of glasses, then Claire's voice, clear and unmistakable. I even told Mom she wouldn't come. I figured just not sending a clear invite would be enough, but no, she still showed up, like always, when no one's asking her to. Each word hit me like a blade to the ribs. Lisa burst out laughing. Maybe she thinks this is some secret birthday party for herself. Claire chuckled, then spoke softly, almost a whisper, but loud enough for me to catch every syllable. If she'd actually gotten stuck on the road because of the storm, today would have been so much easier. No explaining, no worrying about her, killing the vibe. I held my breath. Every word they uttered sounded lighthearted on the surface, but underneath was poison. Not the kind of hatred that bursts out suddenly, but the slow burn kind, wrapped in pastel ribbons, misted with luxury perfume, and poured into flutes of champagne. I stood there, motionless, partly from shock, partly because if I moved, I feared I might scream or slam that cake into whatever surface would make the loudest noise. Their laughter faded, footsteps drifting back toward the main hall. They were gone. But that final sentence still echoed in my mind like a warped soundtrack. He wasn't born for moments like this. I don't know how long I stood in that hallway. I just know that when I finally turned, the dark brick wall behind me felt colder than it should have. I walked slowly toward the restroom, dodging eye contact with a few passing staff members. In my head, I kept seeing my car skidding off the road in the snow and hearing the words, "Things would have been easier if she hadn't come." I entered the third stall from the door, closed it, locked it tight, and sat down on the toilet lid, phone still in hand. I leaned back against the cold, tiled wall and closed my eyes. The first tear didn't make a sound. It slipped out silently, followed by more, like I was a fracture in an iceberg that had held too much for too long. I didn't sob. I didn't whimper. I didn't want anyone to hear. But my chest felt crushed under stone, and my throat burned like I'd swallowed a fistful of needles. I unlocked my phone, opened the group chat, Claire's Angels, then the screenshots I'd taken in the bridal party room. After a moment, I tapped into my notes app and typed a single line. "Don't forget, these are the people who once called you family." I didn't add anything else. I didn't need to. After a while, I stood up, fixed my hair, wiped my face, and touched up my faded lipstick. I looked at myself in the mirror. That face had once softened for family. Now it only held the silence of someone who understood. She had tried, she had come, and she had been shoved to the sidelines of someone else's story, right in the middle of a celebration meant to be about love. I stepped out of the restroom with my back straight. Not fast, not slow. I no longer hoped to be welcomed. I just wanted to leave the place where kindness was treated like a joke. But before I left that mansion, there was still one thing I needed to do. As I returned to the grand hall, just as the opening notes of the waltz began, Clare spun beneath the soft golden lights, her white dress floating like sea foam. She beamed with joy, hand in hand with her fiancé, Jack, the same man who had emailed me 2 years ago thanking me for helping him land a job at my old firm. Now he passed by me as if I had never existed. No one asked where I had been. No one realized I had just overheard the truth behind this entire event. I walked to the table where the cake sat, opened the lid, and stared at the fondant inscription I had carefully requested the bakery to write, "To family, to forever." A message I once believed would move Claire to tears. Now it only made me want to laugh. I closed the lid, retied the ribbon, and bent down to lift the box. Everyone was too busy snapping photos, raising glasses, laughing. No one noticed the woman in the deep purple dress, silently slipping out through a side door. I walked straight outside, along the path toward the parking lot, the snow now thicker than when I had arrived. The wind slapped my face like a wake-up call. But I was grateful. It wasn't pretending. I didn't look back, not once. I got into the car, placed the cake on the passenger seat, kicked off my heels, and pulled my coat tighter around my neck. As the engine started, my phone lit up. 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Aunt Bonnie, the woman I hadn't spoken more than 3 sentences to all year. I didn't call back. I needed to get away before my heart softened again. I didn't drive to the hotel I had reserved in the center of town. Instead, I pulled into a small roadside motel 10 miles from the resort, where the front desk clerk didn't even bother asking for my name. I paid in cash, took the key to room 17, and walked into a space that smelled of damp wood and buzzed faintly with the sound of an electric heater. I didn't turn on the overhead light. I just sat on the bed and watched the amber glow of the nightstand lamp stretch across the faded bed sheets. Around 1 a.m., I checked my phone. 12 missed calls, a message from Mom. "You embarrass Claire. Why would you bring a cake and then walk out mid-party? People are talking." A message popped up in the family group chat, the one where I'd long been demoted from eldest sister to afterthought. Ivy overreacted. Again. She always finds a way to make things about her. Sent by Uncle Henry, the same man who once borrowed $3,000 from me for a real estate opportunity and never responded to another message. I read it all without feeling much. Not pain, not shock, just a quiet, hollow ache. Then came the last message from Mom. This will spread if you don't explain. Don't let people think you're unstable. I laughed, a dry, hoarse laugh with not a drop of humor in it. I opened Instagram. Claire had posted a new photo. Her standing among her bridesmaids, draped in a white fur coat glowing with joy. The caption read, "Surrounded by those who love me unconditionally, blessed, engaged life." I wasn't in the photo. No tag, no sign that I had ever been at that party, except for the rumors now circulating among people who had never truly known me. I texted an old friend, Kim, who'd moved away from this small town years ago and now lived in Oregon. She replied almost immediately. "Heard you made a scene at your sister's engagement party? Claire said you were mad about not being a bridesmaid." I closed my eyes. It felt like some petty high school prank had been elevated into a professional smear campaign. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed each line. Claire said I didn't match the vibe. Lisa called my dress a color clash. Jack avoided me all night. Mom told me not to throw the party off course. I saved it, created a separate folder titled The Truth. I wasn't planning to share it, not yet, but I needed to keep it, just in case they ever forgot that I had stayed silent only because I loved them. As dawn approached, the snow stopped falling and moonlight slipped through the curtains. I looked over at the cake, still untouched. No one had wanted it, just like no one had really wanted me. Only the manageable ivy they had imagined into existence. I took off my coat, pulled a thin blanket over me, my eyes still open. No tears, no rage. Just the truth, clear, raw, and impossible to deny any longer. The next morning, I woke up to soft sunlight filtering through the wrinkled curtain. My head throbbed like I'd just come out of a long emotional storm. On the worn wooden table, the cake still sat inside its silver box, untouched. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't want a single bite of anything that reminded me of that night. Everything from the evening before felt like a crack in glass. Not shattered, but visibly fractured. I made coffee with a small machine in the corner of the room, then opened my laptop. The haze was gone. I had been erased from my own sister's celebration, then painted as the one who ruined everything. Worse, it had all happened with the quiet consent of the people I once called family. I opened the Truth folder. Inside were screenshots of the group chat, a photo of the cake sitting at the lavish party untouched, and the bakery receipt showing the date it was ordered and the recipient's name, Ivy Hamilton. I dragged each file into an email and wrote the subject line, "The truth deserves to be known." Recipient, the Human Resources Department at SkyEdge Media, where Jack, the perfect fiancé of Claire, was working as a senior communications assistant. I didn't include an explanation, just the evidence and a single line. These are things that happened at a party attached to his name. I'm not asking for anything, I just want the truth to exist in its full shape. I hit send. No trembling. No guilt. Then I posted 3 photos to Instagram. No faces, no accusations. One was the cake in its box, twinkling lights behind it. One was the snow-covered windshield, my hand gripping the steering wheel through a near whiteout. The last was me standing outside the venue door, coat soaked, eyes red. Still holding the box, like I was hoping someone might open it and say, "Thank you for coming." I wrote a simple caption. Sometimes you drive 7 hours through snow to reach people who never bothered saving you a seat, and that's how you learn where you don't belong. I turned off comments after 2 hours, not out of fear, but because I was done explaining. Whoever understood would understand. That afternoon, my phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from old college friends, coworkers, even acquaintances I hadn't heard from in over 2 years. No one asked, "Did you really cause a scene at the party?" They only wrote, You deserved better. Thank you for speaking up. Then, a surprising message from Beth, the PR rep at SkyEdge who had interviewed me last year when I applied to the marketing team. Ivy, I saw your email this morning. We're reviewing what happened last night. If you're open to it, I'd like to speak further. I stared at the screen. No satisfaction, no fantasies of what might happen to Claire or Jack, just a strange, quiet lightness. Later that day, a message from Jack popped up. No profile photo. We need to talk. I didn't reply. An hour later, Claire called. I let it ring. Didn't pick up. Instead, I opened Google Docs and created a new document titled What They Don't Tell. I didn't write a story, I just listed. I wasn't invited. My name was removed from every list. I heard my sister wish I wouldn't show up. I still drove through a snowstorm with a cake made just for her. I saved it, shut the laptop, got up, grabbed my coat, and walked to a bakery near the motel. A small shop, strung with holiday lights, the air thick with the warm scent of butter and fresh pastries. I stepped inside and picked out a white frosted cupcake with a sprinkle of chocolate flakes. The cashier asked, "Want us to write anything on it?" I thought for a moment and smiled. "No, today's just for me." That night, I sat by the motel window, slowly eating bite by bite, watching the snow melt on the sidewalk. No one called back, no one apologized, but I no longer expected them to. Next Sunday, I received a brunch invitation from Aunt Carol, my father's younger sister. She was the only person in the family who had called me the night I left the engagement party, asking just one question. Are you safe? No blame, no assumptions. Just simple concern. I hadn't replied right away, but I saved her message like a thin thread, anchoring me to something that still felt real. The brunch was held at her home in Boulder, Colorado, a much cozier space than the lavish estate where Claire's engagement party had taken place. Oil paintings lined the walls, the dining table was covered in a burlap cloth, and the scent of cinnamon and coffee drifted from the kitchen. By the time I arrived, around 15 family members were seated around the table, mostly close relatives. Claire was there too. She sat in the middle, her hair in soft waves, wearing a white knit coat over a blush pink midi dress. Her face was carefully made up, and her smile looked exactly like the one on Instagram last week, except now her eyes betrayed a guarded edge. I wasn't there to fight, but I came with a readiness I had lacked for years. I took a seat at the end of the table next to Uncle Mark and Aunt Evelyn. Aunt Carol poured me a cup of hot tea, gently squeezing my wrist. She didn't say a word, but I felt something settle. I had a place. The meal started off awkward. People chatted about the weather, work, the evening TV shows. No one brought up the engagement party, but I knew it hovered over the room like an oil stain on white fabric. Then Claire spoke up. I just want to say, last week was a bit of a misunderstanding, and I think it's better if people don't believe everything they see online. I set my spoon down. Her voice was soft, but every word felt like a thread trying to stitch a tear with lies. Ivy, Claire turned toward me. I'm really sorry you misunderstood everything. It's gotten out of hand. I looked at her, steady, not rushing to argue. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out my phone, and placed it on the table. My voice was calm when I said, Claire, if you really want everyone to understand, maybe they should hear it from you. A beat of silence, her brow furrowed. What do you mean? I opened the voice memo app, tapped the file labeled Kitchen, 9:42 p.m., Snow Ridge. No one spoke as the recording played from the phone's speaker, the clink of glasses, then Lisa's voice. If she crashed on the way here, this night might have gone smoother. And Claire's, clear and unmistakable. I thought not sending a formal invite would make her get the message, but no. She still showed up, like always, when no one wants her. Laughter followed. Then, if she hadn't come, things would have been a lot easier, less explaining to do. I didn't say another word. I stopped the audio and left the phone on the table between the plates of omelets and syrup-covered waffles. No one touched their food. Claire went pale. My mother, 3 seats away, stared at her daughter like she was hearing her for the first time. That's out of context. Claire tried to laugh, her voice shaking. You edited it. I didn't. That's word for word. In the staff area, after you thought no one was there to hear you. Uncle Mark shook his head and set his knife down. Aunt Evelyn leaned over to whisper to someone beside her. No one defended Claire. No one seemed shocked that I had recorded it. They were shocked they had believed she would never let her mask slip. Claire shot to her feet. You don't have the right to destroy everything I've built, just because of your personal feelings. You destroyed it with your own words. I just let everyone hear them. Claire looked around the table. No one looked back. No one reached for her. The silence in that kitchen was louder than all the music from the engagement party the week before. She walked out, didn't return. I picked up my phone and turned off the screen. My tea was still warm. Aunt Carol sat down beside me and whispered, just loud enough for only me to hear. You don't need to shout to be heard anymore, Ivy. Today, you made them go silent. I nodded. And for the first time in a very long while, I finished my breakfast without a lump in my throat. 3 days after the brunch, I received a message from Claire. I know you hate me, but please don't make things worse. I need to talk to you, just once, please. I stared at the words glowing quietly on my phone screen in my small apartment in Fort Collins. The afternoon sun spilled through the window, across the wooden table where I was working, and onto the windowsill, where the lavender plant had just bloomed again after the cold spell. I didn't reply. I let the message sit there, unread, undeleted, unforgiven. The next day, my mother called. I answered, part of me still wanting to believe that grown-ups should know how to take accountability. But instead of an apology, she said, I think you've done enough. This shouldn't have gone this far. Claire's falling apart. You're the older one. Act like it. I let out a short laugh. Mom, I've acted like it for 34 years, and what did that get me? An empty seat. A cake no one touched. A voice recording that if I didn't have, I'd still be the crazy one, in your version of the story. She went silent, so long that I thought she'd hung up. But then she just sighed and repeated, This is family. Don't ruin everything just because you're hurt. I ended the call, this time without hesitation. No guilt. That evening, I walked out to a small bakery at the end of the street, the one I had passed dozens of times but never stepped into. Not because I didn't have time, but because I used to believe cake was something to be shared, never meant for one. But today, I thought differently. The owner, a silver-haired woman with a warm smile, asked what I'd like. A cake for one, I said. No writing, just something good, light, and honest. She smiled like she understood everything without needing to ask. We just made a new passion fruit cheesecake mousse, not too sweet, no frills. I nodded. Perfect. I brought the cake home, set it on the table, and poured myself a glass of white wine. No candles, no flowers, no Instagram captions, just a late dinner with the only person I never had to perform for. Myself. I cut a small slice, took a bite. The tartness melted on my tongue. The smooth cream felt like someone had whispered an apology straight into my senses. But it wasn't someone else's apology. It was mine, to myself. I reopened the things they didn't say document on my computer. I added one final line. I waited too long for them to choose me. I forgot I had the right to choose myself. I saved it. No need to post it, no need for applause. I no longer needed them to believe me. I just needed me to believe. The next day, I temporarily archived all my social media posts, not to hide, but to clear the air, like cracking open a window after a storm. Apology texts began trickling in from a few relatives. Some said they didn't know the whole story. Others said they were just watching from the sidelines. A few stayed silent completely, and I knew they always would. Claire sent a long email. Gone was the hollow tone. She wrote that Jack had postponed the wedding, that his company was investigating an anonymous report connected to the party, that she felt like she had lost everything. She wrote, I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I just want you to know I was wrong and I've started going to therapy. I didn't reply right away. A week later, I sent a single line. I hope you learn to face things without needing to darken others just to look brighter. No emojis, no forced smile. That night, I stood by the window, watching the season's first snowflakes fall gently onto the rooftop. No noise, no chaos, no need to be seen. They simply existed, just like me, finally standing in my own world, no longer playing background in someone else's story. From Ivy's story, I realized that sometimes what we need isn't validation from family, but the courage to walk away from places that make us feel small. Standing up for the truth isn't about revenge, but about reclaiming our own voice. Peace doesn't come from being accepted, but from the moment we choose to live by our own values, even if no one applauds. Ivy didn't need them to change. She just needed to step out of the shadow they once cast over her. What do you think about Ivy's journey? Have you ever been in a similar situation? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful and honest stories about family, choice, and self-worth.